There'll be a
philosophy
philosophy. It
start
will
always
start
in the
always in
time.
the time.
So
So thank you,
all the
all the
participants that
participants who
joined
have
so far.
joined so
People are
far.
still
People are
joining
still
in.
joining in.
A warm
A
welcome
warm
to today's
welcome in
session.
today's session.
So
So
I think
I
many
think
of you
many
are
of you are
familiar with our
familiar with our
sessions. We are
sessions.
doing
We
it
are
for
doing it
last
for last
3 weeks
3 weeks
almost.
almost.
Every day
Every
almost
day
at four
almost at
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
In the
In the
afternoon time,
afternoon
we are
time, we are
trying to
trying to
understand many
understand many
different
different
technologies,
technologies,
processes
processes
in terms
in
of our
terms of
business
our business
continuity in this
continuity in this
challenging time.
challenging time.
So I
So
think
I
already
think
around
already around
25 odd
25
days we
odd
are in
days
a
we are in a
lockdown
lockdown
state in
state in
India.
India.
We are
We
facing
are
many
facing many
challenges to
challenges
run
to
our
run our
business.
business.
So in the
So the
idea of
idea of
arranging this kind
arranging
of
this
session
kind of
was
session was
how to
how
adapt
to
to the
adapt to the
situations in a new
situations in a
normal
new
kind of a
normal kind
time
of a
frame.
time frame.
What all new
What all new
technologies,
new knowledge
will be
will be
helpful for all
helpful
of
for all
us
of us
to
to
sustain
sustain
in the
in
game
the
of
game of
business.
business.
So
So
from that
from that
context,
context, today's
session is on
session is on
multi-factor
multi-factor
authentication,
authentication,
focusing on
focusing on
identity and
identity
access
and access
management.
management.
We will
So
try to
we'll try to
understand
understand
how it will be
how it will be
beneficial, what will
beneficial,
be
what is the
relevance
relevance
in our
in our
present time
present
in
time
work
in
from home
work
kind
from
of
home kind of
situations.
situation.
We have
We have
Rishikesh
Rishikesh
from
from
Thales.
Thales
So
Pro.
tell us more
Tell us
about
more
that.
about that.
So what to
So
you,
what to you,
Rishikesh? You
Rishikesh?
can
So you can
introduce
introduce
yourself and your
yourself and your
company and take
company
us
and
through
take
the
us
journey.
through the journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sushovan. Hello, everyone. This is Rishikesh Mane, Solution Architect from Thales. Today's presentation would be on the relevance of identity and access management in the present pandemic situation. So the agenda for today's presentation would be as shown on the screen. A small introduction about Thales as an organization. What are the current enterprise level challenges organizations are facing during the cloud transformation? An overview of SafeNet Trusted Access and IAM solution by Thales and its features and how it would help you to deal with the current situation, the use cases, and why SafeNet Trusted Access should be a part of your solution, a core part of your solution. Thales is basically a France-based organization dealing majorly in defense and aerospace. In 2017, Thales acquired another organization, Gemalto, who was a leader in digital identity and security solutions. Prior to that, Gemalto had acquired SafeNet, which was a leader in authentication and encryption technologies in 2015. So by 2019, the entire acquisition process got completed between Thales and Gemalto. So now, combined, our team has 80,000 employees across the globe, and we have our presence in 68 countries around the world. The revenue of Thales is approx 19 billion euros, and we strive to develop innovative security solutions, and hence we have a self-funded R&D of more than 1 billion euro. Just to give you a glimpse of Thales and its presence, we have our presence in many verticals, including secure satellite communication, defense system, air and ground transportation systems, and so on. Post acquiring Gemalto, its solution portfolio is continued as a separate global business unit along with other entities such as Guavas and Thales Security. So under Gemalto, there is a business unit called as CPL, Thales Cloud Protection and Licensing, and it is dedicatedly working on the authentication and data encryption solution. And I belong to that business unit CPL, and I take care of the IAM portfolio across India and the South Asia. So let's have a look at the different type of cloud challenges, the current enterprise level cloud challenges the organizations are facing during the cloud transformation. So whenever any organization subscribes for any cloud-based digital service, it needs to follow an entire digital service life cycle starting from the user onboarding providing secure access of the service to all the users in such a way that they do not have to remember the hundreds of passwords and the peace of mind that is there by which the data privacy will be. Moreover, enabling the data encryption for the data being generated and ensuring a secure cryptographic account deletion of the user so that during use and even after leaving the service, the people can benefit from the right to be forgotten. So whenever any organization starts their cloud transformation journey, it faces couple of or rather many challenges. I would say. The first is the password protection. On an average, an organization uses 27 cloud applications. So it's natural that the users have to remember excessive number of passwords as a part of their daily routine and need to deal with the password renewal. Now, this leads to poor security as keeping track of all these passwords is a real tough task. And if any of those passwords are compromised, then the data is at risk. For the administrators, management of all these users, their passwords, and access to the application becomes a very cumbersome process, so which leads to an inefficient management of the accesses. And no matter which industry or vertical your organization belongs to, it does come under one or the other compliance. If your organization belongs to banking and finance, you need to follow the PCI DSS compliance. If your organization falls under healthcare industry, you need to comply with the guidelines of the department. If you deal with the data of European customers, you need to follow the GDPR. So all these compliances say that you need to enable strong authentication mechanism in order to protect the access to your data and application. And if you do not enable the secure access to your cloud services, you are at a compliance risk. Last but not the least, password resets. So as it is difficult for the users to remember the passwords to different applications, often users hit on the forget password button. But very few of them know that these password resets are not free and the cost for the same has to be borne by the organization. So now it has been proven that the traditional security provided by the firewalls and VPN is no longer sufficient. A number of data breaches are growing year on year across all the sectors, be it banking or automotive or insurance or health and retail business. So when we deep dived in the analysis of these data breaches, we identified that the main cause of the attack is the identity theft. As the data says, 69% of data breaches occur due to the compromised identity of a legitimate user. Secondly, the main cause of damage was the use of unencrypted data. In 95% of the data breached incidences, uh, the data was unencrypted, which caused a severe damage to the organization. Now, let us talk about the good old perimeter security in the times where the organization used to have all of their data within the organization's domain. Now, to enable a secure remote access to this data and infrastructures, organizations started deploying VPNs. So, whenever a remote user had to access the data which is residing on premise, I believe there is noise.
Yeah, I request all the
request all the
users to
users to
be on
be
mute.
on mute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. He used to enter his user ID and password to get the access to the VPN and in turn to the data with the, or the application within the organization's premise. But as the use of VPN devices started growing, users started finding the difficulties in using the VPNs. First was the use of passwords. Users had to remember the passwords for the VPNs, and addition to the existing list of complex password, they had to access to the other system. Then there was a trend to use the AD credentials to access the VPNs, but this method started showcasing its flaws, as a VPN user can easily fall for a cyber attack like phishing or a spear phishing. For example, suppose a hacker sends a legitimate looking email to one of your employees and tricks them into installing a keylogger, a malware that records keystrokes and sends them to a remote server to the hacker control. All the attacks has to do now the attacker has to do is to wait for the unsuspecting employees to type in his or her username and password, and once in the possession of valid credentials, the attacker will be able to connect to your VPN as a legitimately, and he will get a full access to your network, steal information, or you cause any kind of damage to your organization. Secondly, the privileged accounts provide access to an organization's most critical assets. So they are not only the most desirable accounts for the hacker, they are also often the most vulnerable, because privileged users tend to have most privilege with the least accountability. So there is no doubt on the capabilities of VPN that it creates a very strong encrypted tunnel for the accessing the data remotely in a secured manner. However, what if the access of the VPN credentials itself are compromised? Now, let's talk about the organizations having an hybrid infrastructure, having their data in the cloud as well as on premise. Uh, how will you manage the access of VPN as well as the cloud apps in a secure manner? Now, the complexity increases where there are different type of users, such as your standard users, the IT admins, or the consultants, or the CISO users who wants to access all these applications and data. Uh, so how your IT team or your security team is going to manage it. So now, considering all these conditions, let us see how we can enable secure and convenient access to all the applications and services on cloud as well as on premise to the employees of the organizations. So, a multi-factor authentication. It's an authentication concept where you need more than one factor to get authenticated successfully. The factors are categorized as: the first factor is something which you know, like a password or a PIN. Second factor is something which you have and no one else can have, like a key or a token or a one-time password. Third factor is something which you are, that is your biometric identity, like fingerprints, face, iris, etc. Now, when we combine more than one of the above factors while authenticating into a device or a service, it's known as a multi-factor authentication. It's a very powerful mechanism to deal with the password compromise scenarios. So the MFA will for sure enable a strong authentication and enhanced security within your organization. You need to enter a password plus OTP for accessing each and every service within your organization. But is it really needed? Do we need to enable MFA for all of the services of your organization? Don't you think it's going to hamper the user convenience and the experience? I mean, entering a multi-factor authentication credentials for a simple service like logging your day in and day out. So, can we introduce something like SSO, single sign-on, which will allow the user to do a multi-factor authentication once and then use the same cached credentials to authenticate the user on other applications, of course. So This will basically lead into another problem. What if the user gets an access to some critical application under the umbrella of SSO? So there are chances that a legitimate user might start an SSO session by entering multi-factor authentication credentials. But what if someone gets an access to that session by using the social engineering hacks? How do we identify that which are the crucial applications and to which the access has to be given on the runtime, and a step up authentication has to be introduced even if they are under the umbrella of SSO. So here we need the help of access policies, which can help us to determine what all applications should come under the umbrella of SSO post doing an MFA, and for which applications MFA needs to be enabled for each and every access attempt, even if they are under the SSO session. Additionally, we also need to consider different context under which user would be trying to authenticate, like the network through which user is trying to authenticate, or the OS and the version of the devices, the country of the user, and so on. So, to summarize, a single solution which can deliver strong multi-factor authentication capabilities with providing while providing the convenience of single sign-on with the flexibility of defining the context-based access policies to enable a step-up authentication for critical applications. So, SafeNet Trusted Access, Thales' identity and access management solution. Let's have a look at it, and let's see how it can, meet or achieve all of your needs of providing and secure access. SafeNet Trusted Access, it is also known as STA. So it helps your organization to prevent the breaches, it secure your organization's cloud transformation, and simplifies the compliances for you. So it's a full-fledged access management solution which can cover the use cases like the multi-factor authentication for your AD network on or the network logon for Windows, Linux, and the Mac devices. Then it can also secure the access to your cloud applications like enterprise applications. Then strong authentication for your on-premise infrastructure, including the VPN devices, legacy in-house developed web applications, VDI infrastructure, and so on. So it's a complete policy engine which lets you design the access policies as per your need, performs a risk assessment for incoming authentication requests based on the contextual attributes, does the geotagging, and enables a smart session management. So I would be coming on the smart session management later on in the presentation. So let's have a look at the STAR's flexible and powerful policy. Safely trusted access allows you to integrate the application with help of a pre-configured templates in a very easy and a quick way. So there are not complex integration guides, I would say, which you need to worry about and you need to follow. Most important, if the application you use it's not listed under the pre-configured application list, Star let you integrate your custom application with help of the SAML 2.0 based generic template. Star integrates out of the box with a dozen of cloud and web based apps. It hardly takes 5 minutes to set up an app. You can use the generic wizard, as I mentioned earlier, to set up the apps that do not have their own wizards. So as you can see on the screen, be it O365, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Dropbox, or Pearl Secure, or F5, all of these applications can be integrated in a very easy and quick manner with the SafeNet Trusted Access. So, as I said earlier, Star enables you to design the scenario based on the access policies, and most importantly, you can tailor those policies according to the application's criticality and depending on which type of user is trying to access the application. So, for instance, step up authentication for privileged accounts like C-suite user or IT admin, or you can enable step up authentication for high value applications like VPN and Salesforce and etc. The solution can also leverage the user's current AD password and make it used for an multi-factor authentication. So this will basically reduce the access friction for authenticating the cloud application. Uh, let's see how Star can manage the risk through the scenario-based policies. So it consists of three things. One is your target apps, second is your user groups, and third is the policies which you define. So Star is a very powerful policy engine. You can use it to set the business-driven policies at the individual group as well as the app level. So setting up a policy hardly takes you 2 minutes, and editing the policy is about 1 minute. So you can set the policies for different user scenarios. For example, user accessing the apps outside of the office, in specific countries, or policies that will enforce PCI compliances or other business or regulatory outcomes. So here is the list of adaptive and contextual attributes staff considers while designing the policy. Network-based attributes like stack and blacklist or whitelist the IP addresses or the range of IP addresses. It can also detect the anonymizing proxy or anonymizing VPN, and based on this, can introduce the step of authentication or simply deny the authentication request. Based on the operating systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, or Android and its versions, Star can let you design and modify the access policy. You can also whitelist or blacklist countries. You can detect the change of the countries since last access and add the exception to the policies based on such event. You can also adjust the policy behavior based on whether it's a known device of a user or if the user is accessing this device for the first time based on the past authentications. Now, let's have a look at the powerful authentication capabilities offered by Star. So, SafeNet Trusted Access offers a broad range of authentication methods out of the box, which can be used to manage the risk through the policy manager. So, MFA methods include with the service are like OTP push, OTP hardware, OTP app, that is a soft token, then the SMS and email based OTPs, third party tokens, pattern based authentications, static passwords, and so on. So, if you are planning to go passwordless, you can make use of OTP push authentication, where while you are doing an authentication into some resource or application, you would get a push notification on your mobile device asking you to approve the authentication. If you want to make use of hardware based OTP tokens, Thales has their own production of hardware tokens. uh, if you have a premise within your office where no hardware device or mobile phones are allowed, you can make use of pattern based authentication, where you would be presented with a grid of 5 by 5 full of randomly placed numbers, and where you need to enter the pattern with help of those numbers in the grid. If you have an existing PKI infrastructure, we can leverage them to authenticate you in your cloud apps. And later in the year, we will be also supporting the FIDO and Windows Hello. Windows integrated authentication. So Star allows you to enable a complete. It supports an Kerberos authentication, where your Windows system authentication can be treated as an authentication factor for the SSO sessions on your browser. So it's like once you authenticate into your domain connected system, no need to authenticate again for accessing your cloud apps on the browser. Star allows you to configure a complete passwordless authentication user experience while still maintaining the standard of security with push OTP and the biometric authentication on Windows Hello or iOS or an Android device. So here you can configure a policy in Star for OTP only without a domain password, where the biometric pin on your Windows Hello or on your native biometric native iOS or Android device would be serving as a second part. So with the mix of private cloud, public cloud, and on-prem and the hybrid environments, the enterprises need a solution that offers the high security of API, making it easier and more secure for the groups of users to access the cloud and the web-based app from any device or anywhere for that matter. So Star enables you to simplify that access for the users with cloud and web-based system help of the API authentication. So there was a thing, something known as the smart session management I referred to earlier. So let's have a look at the smart SSO capabilities of the Star. The SSO solutions available in the market currently are simple SSO solution. Let's try to find out why it's better to have a smart SSO compared to a simple SSO solution. A smart SSO can configure step-up authentication for high-value apps or privileged accounts. So, and in simple SSO, if the credentials are breached, all the applications become vulnerable, which fall under the SSO. With smart SSO, you get the visibility on each and every access attempt by the use of applications the user is accessing under the SSO. But in simple SSO, you cannot track the applications which are being accessed where, when, and how. Smart SSO is policy driven. Based on the policy, direct access is given or step up authentication is prompted. In simple SSO, a single access policy is used for all the applications and the user. Smart SSO lets you make use of universal authentication methods based on the contextual attributes for every access attempts. But if you see the simple SSO, it forces you to use basically the authentication methods. I mean, the same authentication methods for each and every application. Um, okay. So, simple example of how a smart single sign-on works. Okay. Um, if you are authenticating into any enterprise resource from the office premise, you can access it with the help of SSO session if you are already under it with a single click. But the same application, if you are trying to access from your outside of the organization or from your home, you need to authenticate the same application with help of an OTP along with your normal credentials. So basically, to ensure that only a legitimate user is getting an access to the application. Nextly, full-fledged user portal. So Safe and Trusted Access provides a full-fledged user portal for all of its end user. This portal has the icons of all the applications to which the user has access. So it's like I am a user who is having the access to like say for example 5 of the 10 applications in the organizations. I would be seeing only those 5 applications in my user portal, and I just need to authenticate into that user portal, and I can access all the applications from there. So this basically eliminates the need of remembering the application's URL or bookmarking the same. Okay. A fully automated authentication provisioning and token management. So SafeNet Trusted Access ensures that by deploying this solution, it will remove or reduce the management and the admin overheads with help of its automation capabilities. So SafeNet Trusted Access can integrate with your organization's user store and then synchronize the user. So post this synchronization, based on enrollment policies defined in STAR, user receives an self-enrollment and token activation email. So once the user has completed the self-enrollment and token activation, he can securely access the enterprise resource or cloud application. The synchronization basically enables the changes in the organization's user store to be replicated in the star user repository, such as addition or removal of the user, changes in the user data, and so on. So all of those changes would be replicated in the star as well. So this basically completely removes the involvement of any IT admin or any administrator who is working for this specific console to be engaged in this kind of activities. Nextly, the user-initiated token enrollment. So SafeNet Trusted Access also offers the user-initiated token enrollment where he doesn't have to wait for any token activation email. So user can directly go to the protected resource, their star will identify that okay, this is a registered user but does not have any token enrolled. Then user will be prompted on the screen with the process of activating the token. Fully customizable software as a service, then Star's user experience is fully brandable, from the emails to the text messages to the design of portal icons and authentication portal interface. Everything can be branded. Since we have our own hardware token production plant, you can also get the hard tokens branded to your organization's branding team. So Star also offers a full-fledged reporting capabilities. Let's have a look at it. And access event dashboard and a unified audit trail. Over almost 40 out of the box reporting templates. It enables an automatic delivery and proven compliance reports. The Star also helps you to integrate with the SIM solutions which are already having in the organizations, and all of the logs which are generated in Star are fully exportable. So this is a full-fledged dashboard. It gives you an complete view of 30 days authentication history. The authentication attempts can be like per policy the which you defined, or per target application which you have configured. So and in the last 30 days, how many successful attempts happened, how many failure attempts were there, and user details and the account status of a user who is part of Star. Then you can also get an access to the audit logs. You can export those logs to the spreadsheet, or you can name the policy, and from that policy you can get those reports. A fully automated authentication reports. You can schedule the regular reports. You can get that delivery via email, or you can log into the management console to download those reports. Over 50 out of the box reporting templates for easy compliance. Additional reporting suite base available, managing the multiple domain based network. And you can also group those reports for an instant access. So let's have a look at the use cases which can be achieved using SafeNet Trusted Access. So how do we secure the remote access, that is which you usually provide in your organization with help of STA? So we can integrate with the VPN devices with help of the radius protocol. From the user's perspective, the use case would be something like, if I am a user and trying to access my VPN, and if STA is integrated with the VPN, firstly I would be prompted to enter my AD credentials. Those AD credentials would be getting authenticated by my AD server, the LDAP service, post which I would be prompted to enter an OTP. Now, this specific step would be based on the integration which you have done, or the token which you have taken. So, if you have taken an OTP based hardware or a software based OTP based token, you need to enter the OTP. If you have opted for a push based authentication, at the same step you will get a push notification on your mobile, on for which you need to accept it. If you accept that thing, the that response would be sent to separate trusted access, and on the back end you will be authenticated, and the access of the VPN would be given to you, so that you can access the data and the applications and the services which are within the premises of your organization. How can you secure the network access with the star? That is basically your AD authentication. So the process would be same. First, you need to enter your AD credentials. If they are valid, then you would be prompted for the OTP. So here it is not just about the Windows. You can also secure your Mac devices or the Linux devices for that matter, using the a secure network access with star. So it is basically an agent based integration. An agent would be deployed on the endpoints, and that agent would be responsible for communicating with the SafeNet trusted access service. So securing the enterprise cloud application access with star. So as I mentioned earlier, we have an entire list of cloud-based application which is continuously growing, be it AWS, Salesforce, O365, CyberArk, F5. You can access all of these applications through SafeNet Trusted Access. So here, all of these applications act as a service provider, okay, and SafeNet Trusted Access acts as an identity data provider. So here, the all of these service provider application um, allows the SafeNet Trusted Access to act as an identity data provider, and allows the SafeNet Trusted Access to verify the users who are accessing those cloud-based services. Once the verification is done, the user gets an access to those cloud-based applications like AWS, G Suite, or O365. So here the entire process of authentication is delegated to SafeNet Trusted Access by your authentication by your enterprise resources. So the reason why SafeNet Trusted Access. So the main competitive differentiators which Star has compared to the other solutions in the market: we are very easy to deploy, a rapid time to live, it's a completely automated solution just now we saw, and having a simple policy setup. We have a broadest multi-factor authentication capabilities, a cloud neutral solution. You can deploy within your premises, or you can have the solution which is there on the already hosted on a cloud. You can also ensure a conditional access to your applications. The total cost of ownership is reduced by great margins, competitive pricing, and integrated MFA, as well as the access management service. An all-in-one license and multiple tokens are included for the licenses. So we are in 30 years in the identity and access management realm. These are our few of the reputed customers who are using our solution. we are the pioneers in the cloud-based authentication. So we were the first one to bring this entire authentication solution over a cloud with more than almost 4.5 million paying subscribers. And as you are aware, we are the authentication leaders in the PKI world. So if you buy SafeNet Trusted Access, what's there in the pack? So a simple license, which would be having the user license plus the support. Okay. Secondly, the our support is based in Noida, India. 24 by 7 support, and thirdly the authenticator. So basically an entire MFA and access management capabilities, different type of authentication options, as well as the I'm sorry, the customer support with 100% cloud solution. Thank you so much. That's what from my side. Please let me know what are the if you have any queries.
Yeah, thank you, Rishikesh. So there are already some queries which I pasted in the chat box.
Okay,
Uh,
let me just check.
yeah. So someone said SafeNet trusted access supports only radius or native protocol for this case.
So basically, SafeNet Trusted Access supports Radius as well as SAML protocol and OIDC as well. So if your application supports these protocol, we can easily integrate with them. Other than that, there are a couple of use cases like the Outlook Web Access or the network authentication. So which does not have any protocols identified. So we have developed our own agents which will be basically deployed on your Exchange servers or on your IIS servers or on your endpoints, which would enable the multi-factor authentication for this.
Right. So the next one was someone said, uh, how does it differ with NetFoundry? As NetFoundry also provides a secured access for organization application.
I am not much aware about the Net Foundry, and to be frank, I have not heard this name in IIM competitors. I need to check on this part, and I will get back to you on this one for sure on the Net Foundry.
Okay. So now I think floor is open. Anyone from the audience, they can also unmute their microphone and shoot their queries so that discussion becomes more meaningful.
So is it also dongle based?
No, it is not a dongle based, I would say. I mean, not only a dongle based. The hard token which we provide is basically a small dongle type of a device which comprises of a small button and a LCD display where if you press that button, an OTP would be displayed and you can feed in that OTP where you need to authenticate, and you can get the authentication done, but not necessarily a dongle which you need to connect to the system through the USB, because we do not wanted we did not wanted that type of an dependency to generate the OTP.
Sir, how about the PII process, sir? How is it?
Sorry, which process?
PII, personal identification.
Okay. So about the PII, if the question revolves around what type of data we store of the users who are subscribed to our service, we basically take just four details. That is first name, last name, the user ID, and the email address. So email address is just meant for sending the enrollment emails and the token activation emails. Other than that, we do not store any kind of PII data.
Yeah, hi, this is Prakash here.
Hi, Prakash.
Yeah, my question is regarding that you were talking about step-up authentication. So, what are the mode of authenticating, and what are the channels that you are going to enhance once there is a need that step-up authentication needs to be done?
Okay, so basically, let us understand why do we need a step-up authentication. So now, say there are, for an instance, I have configured three applications. One is my Office 365, another is my Zoho ERP app, and another was an SFDC. So I am accessing currently all of these three applications under the SSO. Okay, but if we see the criticality of the application, for me, the O365 mail service is at the least criticality. The Zoho app is at a medium criticality, and the SFTC is at the highest criticality. So here, how I can enable the step-up authentication is like, suppose if I log in to the portal and I try to access the Office 365. So there, under the SSO umbrella, I would be accessing my email service without any disturbance. I would be just clicking on that icon, and my mailbox will be open. But if I try to click on my Zoho ERP, okay, which is a medium level criticality application, I would be asked to enter a domain password. Okay, so I can set up a policy that I need to enter an OTP as well as an domain password for accessing the Zoho application per session. So if I have entered it earlier, then it is fine. But for me, SFDC is a very highest level criticality application. I cannot allow any user to access that app under the umbrella of SSO. Okay. So what I would be doing, I would be asking the user that even if you have logged in to the SSO session, I will set up a policy that will ask the user to enter the OTP each and every time the user is trying to access the SFTC. So be it in the same browser or the same SSO session. So that is why we need the step-up authentication to secure the critical applications.
Just continued question. Yeah, what you
Yes,
said
please.
is correct. But then this is the pre-configuration that we can do. But what we know about the step authentication is like in case of what we do in banking is for fraud risk management. That a customer is using, suppose ATM, a transaction from
Mhm.
same state in historically, and now he tries to do ATM transaction in Delhi. That means something is
Mhm.
an anomaly. So based on the anomaly, we'll do the step of authentications. So what
Okay,
is here
okay,
the
okay.
anomaly that you found?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, that the solution also consider the contextual attributes, right? So here, what we can, okay. Secondly, this application is just for a B2B. It is not for B2C. So if you are planning to deploy it for your organization's end customer, that is something not possible. But you can deploy it for your organization's internal employees.
Yeah.
Considering the fact the employees can also travel across the globe or travel across the country, if it is specifically if they are from the sales team. So how do we manage that specific access? So here, when I define a policy, I can also define some scenarios which are basically the exceptions to the policy. I mean, I have defined a policy where user need to access this application with help of an a domain password and OTP once per session. But what if the user is accessing the application from outside of the office? What if the user is accessing this application from an Android device where my organization just allow the Windows device to be access this application? What if the user is I got an authentication request from say China in this case, right, where I do not have any user base in China. What if I get an authentication request from Sri Lanka, where the earlier authentication request for was from India just 15 minutes ago? So these are the kind of contextual attributes which can also be considered while developing the policy. And accordingly, so just now as you said, that suppose one of your employee is sitting is from India, okay, and an anomaly was detected when an authentication request for the same user came from Sri Lanka. So this is an anomaly. How do I treat it? So if it is a legitimate use case, okay, I do have an user base in Sri Lanka as well, and there is a possibility that this user might be traveling to Sri Lanka. Say the um, time or the delta between these two authentication requests is not 15 minutes, it is 15 hours, then it is a legitimate use case. How do I authenticate that user? I cannot allow the user to directly access the application, but I cannot completely deny that authentication request. So here, in such kind of scenarios, the need of step up authentication arise. So here I ask the user to do a step up authentication, and then only the access of the application will be given to him. I hope I gave a proper response to your
Yeah.
query.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so basically the
Anyone
next,
else
so I
to
can
have any
see
queries?
a question on the training document of this product. So post this, I would be sharing the data sheet and everything. And then probably Mr. Mukherjee can share the same with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else having any specific queries we can address? I can see Shomok is there. Shomok, will you be having any specific queries? You can unmute and shoot your query.
Yeah, I have gone through the presentation. Yeah. No, I don't have queries at this point of time. Uh, like,
Your voice is very low. I don't know.
but
Rishikesh is able to listen?
No,
no,
I'm
I don't have
not able
queries
to.
at this point of time, but I could get back later on.
Sure, sure,
Okay.
Shomok, no issues.
Sure. Fair enough. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Amar here.
वीडियो तो मैंने Yeah, Amar.
Yeah.
डिलीट करने के लिए
So
शूट तो नहीं किया
yeah. So how does it compare with this VIP access from Symantec? Any comparisons where this works out better, or either technically or price wise? How can it compete and beat Symantec
So
VIP access?
Symantec VIP access. So yeah, I do have some, kind of comparisons in that regard. Forward you post in this session.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sriram, you will be having any queries?
Our side, we are concentrating much on the avionics side of Thales, so not in this domain. So maybe in future we will get back.
Sure. All right. Anyone else? Varsha, I think you had some queries. If you can unmute and shoot the query. Okay.
My question was about the passwordless authentication. So when he mentioned that the second factor would be, a biometric pin. So what all will constitute under a biometric pin?
So here, basically, the biometric is currently the native biometric capabilities of your mobile device. Okay, so if you are using an Apple iPhone, so it can help you. So you can make use of Touch ID or a Face ID. If you are using an Android device, you can make use of the fingerprint scanner. So those things can be considered. And the latestly, the Windows Hello. So here you can scan your face, or you can scan your fingerprint, and that is how you can get an access. I hope that answers your question.
So far, I don't see any other queries. So anyone, we can have couple of more queries. Otherwise, we are on the verge of conclusion. Okay. So I don't see any more raising hands to answer our queries. But however, even once we finish this webinar, also as I mentioned my email ID, so you can shoot your queries. We can answer it afterwards as well. So Rishikesh, thank you very much for your wonderful session, and thank you all the audience and your active participation. So look forward for your joining for the tomorrow onward. We have many interesting sessions as well. Tomorrow we have a session from Barakuda. So stay tuned. Look forward for your active participation. All the session content will be available in our SlideShare and YouTube channel. So stay tuned. Thank you, Rishikesh, once
Thank
again
you.
for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much, Sushovan. Thank you everyone for joining the call. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Rishikesh, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.